want to talk about this book called Stamped by Jason Reynolds. My oldest daughter is reading this in school, and she's been talking about it a lot. So I decided to read it. I'm about three-fourths of the way through. It's a very well-written book. The guy's a good author. Jason is a young guy, but he is very self-righteous and writes in a vacuum about stuff in a time he did not live in. And it's very clear that that is the case. And most notably, it is a dangerous book, and that it tricks you that you think you're reading history. Though he does say at several points this is not a history book, the way he writes it, even I, as an adult, was tricked to think I was reading history because he's a good writer. And he interlaces his commentary and his opinion within that, and also gives footnotes versions, just the little bits he wants to point out about history. So you got to be wary of that. He is very critical of people that made great strides against racism, though not perfect. Living in a time like that, it's kind of hard not to be a racist. And these people made great strides against it. And he talks very self-righteous, like he would be this perfect person. And I seriously doubt any would be. So, he is very critical of Abraham Lincoln, very critical of George Washington Carver, very critical of MLK. And it's very concerning. And my daughter, the way she was talking about it, she thought she was reading a history book. I was like, man, this is not good. It talks about To Kill a Mockingbird, which is a great book by Harper Lee. Talks about the South and very realistic ideas and very graphic language, which was the South was about. But it spoke out against racism and how you need to fight against it. Atticus Finch is one of the most amazing characters in literature. And the things that he did, reading that book, I grew up in the South. It got me to speak out against racism, to speak up for my black friends, to get in fist fights to fight against racism, to do things I never would have done probably had I not read the book To Kill a Mockingbird. So no, Jason Reynolds, I do not think it is a modern day Uncle Tom's Cabin. And here's another thing that's very concerning. Angela Davis, a very well-known activist, a very good writer, done some really great things, but the woman has a very checkered past associated with the Black Panthers movement, associated with Black Power, which did some really violent things. The woman was acquitted of murder. She was innocent of that, but she did supply the guns that killed several people in a courtroom. So there's something there, folks. There's something there. She's not completely innocent. Secondly, she is a self-proclaimed communist. Either she was or she is still today. Communism has never been successful. Lenin, Trotsky, Stalin, Mao, Castro, all brutal dictators who terrorized people, terrorized them. So when she speaks highly of communism, I got a big problem with that. And when my daughter comes home getting a one-sided view of Angela Davis and people in history that she needs to learn further about, this guy named Jason Reynolds, who just makes you think you're reading history when you're not, I'm going to be a little concerned. I'm not saying don't let your kids read this book, Stamped, but when they do read it, keep your eye on it and make sure you call the school out and the education system, not indoctrinating our kids into this one way of thinking where the boogeyman is around every corner. Racism is under every rock, and every person you run into who's white is his seeds of a white supremacist, and every Trump supporter is. I'm sick of that crap, and I'm not going to let it happen with my kids. I'm actually having a meeting with the teacher. I actually like the teacher a lot. But when he brings this book home and my daughter talks about like his history, we're going to have a little talk. And if you're having that problem in your school, it's going to happen with it. We're going to have to start talking to our teachers, folks. I live in a super liberal town, and they try to indoctrinate one way of thought of a boogeyman, and there's one way of doing things, and liberalism, and that is the end all be all, and all conservatives are bad, is what they do in my town, and I'm sick of it. And this book is my first step to talking to his teacher. Once again, stamped Jason Reynolds. Read it. It's a good book. Got some great things. But don't be fooled by it, folks. He's a good writer. And he can fool you to make you think you're reading history, and he can definitely do it to your kids. Find some other books for them to read so they get the whole picture. We cannot indoctrinate our kids into one way of thought, be they in our high schools or they're already doing in colleges. And this book, in a way, does it. Why I think there are good things about it, we need to be very wary of it. Jason Reynolds, man, keep your writing, but I got my eye on you, bud. I got my eye on you.